Hey everyone, it's Wednesday. Do you know who wrote your code? You're watching Techstrong Gang. Hey, it's Alan Schimmel, Techstrong here for Techstrong Gang. Happy Wednesday to you, everyone. We've got a great show with some great topics to talk about. As usual, we'll give you plenty of AI. We'll give you a little bit about what's changing in the U.S. government. But let's end it up with something as American as apple pie baseball. Who could ask for anything more? Let me introduce you to our gang for today. It's a bunch of regulars. They really don't need much of an introduction, but I think we'll start off down in Texas. And if we're going to Texas, we're going to go to Amanda Razzani, our managing editor, down in San Angelo, Texas, big country. Hey, Amanda, how are you?
Doing well.
Welcome. It's great to have you on. Moving from San Angelo, we'll move over to, I guess looks like he's in Austin. He is a principal analyst and CTO with VI, as well as an analyst with Futurum, and our friend from the Bronx, Guy Currier. Hey, Guy, how are you?
Good to be here.
It's good.
From the Bronx to the hill country.
To the hill country.
The hill country of Texas. Yeah.
Very cool.
Good to be here.
All right. Moving from the hill country to the mountains, it's our guitar man, Futurum VP DevOps analyst, Mitch Ashley. Hey, Mitchell, how are you?
Great to be here. Great, just holding up the high end of the organization, and I do mean high.
Yeah, well, in Colorado, when they mean high, they mean it. And then we'll move from there. We'll go to the dean of Techstrong content in Harrison, New York, not named for any president.
I'm still in Dublin, actually.
Oh, you're still in Dublin. I should have recognized. Yeah, from the sweater.
But I'm heading out this afternoon, so we'll be flying home and see you guys on the other side of the pond.
I don't know if I'd rush home if I were you. There's a lot of freedom over there in Dublin.
I'm wondering if I can't wait to see if they actually let me back in.
I wouldn't mention that dual citizenship.
I was fully expected to be questioned when I came home.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I digress. That's for tomorrow's show, perhaps. Let's try to stay on topic. Our first topic for today is, in spite of the naysayers, this darn AI keeps getting better at coding. Getting better at coding. Mike, what do we got?
Well, it's interesting that there is this group called Agentica, and they built this deep coder platform, and it's a project, I guess, and it's still early days, but they put a model up on the AI platform that's run by Together.ai and a cloud service for these AI type platforms. And it seems to perform as well or better than some of these major proprietary models that everybody is talking about. And this one's open source. Mitch, when you look at this, I can't help but wonder if quietly the open source community is not only catching up to the proprietary folks, but maybe surpassing them. And will the cost of these tools and platforms kind of move to zero?
Well, open source is certainly catching up, if not changing what the proprietary models are doing. And with this particular one called Deep Coder, 14B, it sounds like a COVID strain, but no, that's something else. Did really well at some of the benchmarks, like the live code benchmarks. They had a 60% pass rate plus, basically matching what OpenAI's O3 Mini 2025 model. I mean, a lot of jargon. There's reasons why this is notable. One is, first of all, they open source the model and they open source the training data set, the logs, all the system optimizations that they did. So essentially, they kind of turned the whole thing over if you wanted to go recreate that. But more importantly, you can learn from what they did. And they used a lot of reinforced learning in training this model, and even kind of customized or created a variant of one of the libraries that you use to do this with. So it's interesting. We'll see where is this going to show up in developer queue or queue developer in Copilot and all these other places is another model to use. We'll kind of see how people are adopting it. I think the most important thing is that we're seeing models now come to fruition. And we've talked about this, predicted this, that we would see LLMs that are specialized in software development, specialized in secure code, specialized in code quality, things like that. I think we'll even see narrower specialization than that. And we're on that journey. We're on that path. And this, push sticks the pokes the bear of the big proprietary models, and we'll see how they respond.
There's so much that's really interesting about on this news, Mitch. I don't even know where to start, but there are three things that pop out at me. One is uh, this, like you say, sort of, maybe let's say better tuned, better focused training for coders. So we talk a lot on this show about AI for coding and how important it is for the developer to pay attention. Also the fact that a lot of the AI help is in the more mundane, let's say, parts of coding, like annotations and that sort of thing. That's the first thing. The second thing that pops out to me is, I mean, like it's not like everybody and their mother and father can create AI right now, can train AI. I'm not saying that Agentic or those guys are just anybody, not at all. But the number of models becoming available that are viable in one setting or another is just exploding. But the third and I think most interesting to me is the secret of their success in making this model so small, because 14 billion parameters is pretty small, is data curation. Something we've also talked about on this show. And what I thought was DeepSeek's like secret sauce that they just didn't want to talk about was their ability to curate the data. Better data set, um, better selection of codes, code functions, libraries, and so forth. And also the training mechanism that they used eliminated a lot of, just to keep the jargon out of it, what you might call false positives sort of thing to learn from. So they paid attention to that data preparation and curation stage almost as much as the training itself. And I think that made a really big difference. And it's almost like we're still learning how to train AI. And this is a great example. That was one favorite thing out of this news is the attention to the data.
Yeah, they used 24,000 coding examples or coding problems in their data set. And also some of that data was synthetically generated too. But your point's spot on of they were very intentional about what data to train with it versus turn something loose and just look at a code and we'll see what we get. They also, in the modification of their reinforced learning library, something called RLHF, I believe, they created a new variant or version of it that essentially could tackle longer logic strains, if you will, going through to train this model and collapse that to perform it faster. Again, these are all small innovations, but help accelerate, reduce the time. So we're continuing to see innovations in just training models, more or less how we use them.
My question was, I know it's great because it makes it more accessible, as Guy mentioned, and so many people can use it. But I'm just wondering, as with any open source, how do you test the code quality and like security vulnerabilities?
Good question. There is no standardized, benchmark for how well does a model perform in terms of generating good code or accurate code or secure code. But there are things like Prime Intellect has something called Synthetic One. The probably most popular one is Live Code Benchmark that you'll see. Another one's called Taco. I don't remember what it stands for, other than it's a great food that I like to eat. So there are some benchmarks out there. The challenge with that is, to the average practitioner, what does that mean? It's all kind of, well, do I trust Live Code Benchmark more than I trust Believe Taco, or which one's more representative of the kind of software we're building? It's very murky and not really helpful, other than just comparing models against each other. I'm not sure it's how good it is at representing, well, which one's the kind of code that we're going to generate for this problem.
Yeah, and on the security side, I just want to mention, most of the folks on this, show know more about security than I do, but prompt security, there's nothing to address the prompt security vulnerabilities here. That's just a separate item. And as far as the creation of let's say insecure code goes by this model, whatever the training set is, I feel like that's regardless an issue. I mean, at least the training set is open and it can be inspected. And with an army of however many folks out there wanting to inspect and poke holes in it, some of them might find it. That makes it more secure in the ways that we're familiar with in open source. All those eyes on it.
The thing I like most about this is the transparency. And there wasn't a whole lot of magical nonsense and hand waving going on from some vendor somewhere. They were basically saying, here's how we did it, here's how it works. And you could see it. And when you if you click through from our article onto their website, they did a nice job of being very detailed about how this thing was built. And it didn't feel like I was going to try to change the world through magic. It felt like this was just good old fashioned computer science. And maybe we've reached a point where all this Gen AI stuff, maybe it's no longer magic. Have we got to the point, Alan, where you think this is kind of just standard operating procedure now?
Look, there's two things here. And all of you have touched on one aspect or another of it. Number one, it's obviously obvious how quickly this thing is maturing, meaning this Gen AI and the whole being able to train models and the output you're getting from these things. Just before coming in here, I was on ChatGPT 4.5, the new one, and I wrote, using it to help me write something. This is one of the first times where I did give it a crazy good prompt to tell, if I say so myself. But in reading the output, I couldn't really edit much. It was that good. So is it any wonder that it's getting better at coding, and we've got smart people who are really focusing in on training and reinforced learning, and so it's getting better? No. And here's the good news. We've just scratched the surface still. No, Mike. Yes, it's better than it was and everything else. It's not magic-like anymore, but, it's like I feel like the engine, we're still breaking in this engine. We haven't opened that baby up yet, okay? And when we do, all hell can break loose, right? This could be really game-changing. Secondly, yes, it's open source. So, we those of us on here of an age get that warm and fuzzies from the open source. Fact of the matter is, those 1,000 eyes on the code don't always find the vulnerabilities you're looking for. And there's still, I would venture to say that there's still going to be security concerns with this model, and whether it can be poisoned or hallucinations we're better at, but whether it could be poisoned or just, how secure is the code and what safeguards have been built in, that'll continue to evolve too. But, the whole open source model is dominant today for a reason. Transparency, as Mike said, some of the things Guy cited, some of the things Mitchell said. Yes, it's a good way perhaps of doing it, but now now we'll go to the foundation model of this, where we'll have, different companies weighing in and supporting it, hopefully, and broaden that base of contributors. And let's see what happens. But this isn't the first or the last, and I think it's only going to get better and better.
Speaking of licensing there, Alan, this one is under the MIT license, which is very permissive.
Right,
So we'll see people take
run
this and
with
do
it.
something, the next innovations with it.
Guy, do you think that as these kinds of open source projects progress, that Wall Street and analysts will take a deeper look at some of the valuations of some of the proprietary players and conclude that, hey, maybe there isn't going to be this pot of gold at the end of that proverbial rainbow because it's becoming commonplace open source software?
So says
So yes,
Banana
another
W.
opportunity for me to say this is maybe the first nail in OpenAI's coffin. I'll keep predicting that until I turn out to be completely wrong about it, which is a real possibility. But I think that uh, the the nature of the AI enterprise, which started out in research and with what was supposed to be a public benefit corporation and still technically is, which is OpenAI, turned into this gold rush. And so when we're thinking about trying to, there are no natural monopolies here, I guess what I'm getting at. Like Google's what's called a natural monopoly, which is that the more people use Google for search, the more valuable the search is. That's not really the case here. There cannot be one AI to rule them all. Especially as we're seeing this proliferation of this ability for so many different organizations to do this training. But I will say, Mike, that there's tons of money for Wall Street to make here with the use of it, with the use of open. Just think about this idea that it's the data that you use, curating the data, and all that other sort of thing. To whether it's to make the foundational model better, or to tune it better, or for RAG applications. Um, there's a lot of money to be made just there because that is something that takes expertise, attention, talent. And anywhere you have that, you have the opportunity to build tools, to build platforms, to build service offerings, and that sort of thing. So it just may not be at that core foundational model training side, but Wall Street will go where the profit is.
You know what? Red Hat did pretty good with some open source operating system that everyone else was able to publish too.
But tell us a little about Red Hat.
You never heard? They're the guys, they got the red hats, hence Red Hat. But, right, so, I mean, because that's the thing about this foundational era of open source, right? Everybody gets a great base to start on. And then how you innovate off of that separates winners from losers, success from failure. There's nothing to stop an open AI from using an MIT licensed model like this and then build their own special sauce on top of it. And not just open AI, nothing to stop Google or Anthropic or Meta or anyone.
2 college students, who knows?
Well, or 2 college students working in a garage in Silicon Valley somewhere. Who knows? But here, I'm sorry, go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, no. Well, I was just going to say, I was just sitting here pondering what Guy said about OpenAI. And I'm thinking, but they do have the advantage of being first. And so many people were using its tools for so long that they're comfortable with it, that they haven't even necessarily tried other tools at this time because it was first and they've gotten very comfortable with it. So I don't think they're going anywhere. But
Well,
that's
no,
just
but
me.
here's the thing. OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, Llama maybe, these are what I call general generative AIs. They're great for people like you and me, Amanda, to bang out some essays, do some marketing, fashion some thoughts, right, together. What we have here with Deep Coder is not a general generative AI. It's a specific tool for code, just for code. And just like everything else in this world, you could be a jack of all trades, master of none, or you could be a specialist. And I think the world is ripe for specialist AIs for specific tasks. I think we're going to have a very specialist AI for lawyers, for legal people. Well, maybe not for lawyers, maybe for people who replace lawyers, heaven forbid. We're going to have another specialist AI for medicine. We'll have another specialist AI maybe for civil engineering projects, or you name it. So you'll have your generalists, but you're going to have these specialties, and the specialists will always be special, right? By definition, and I think that's what you'll use.
I think this is a good case where taking that specialization further, Alan, is just within code generation. Here's some models that are specialized at, prompts for basically constructing the architecture of the application. Here's models that are really good around data management, data manipulation,
Well,
analysis.
almost
These are the ones that are
subspecialties.
whatever they are, and I think it sets us up for a world where coding is not just about the model; it's about the agents that perform the tasks and talk to whichever models need to be, the ones that are best suited to the job, right?
Right. Think of a Salesforce or an OpenAI, perhaps, who has an AI marketplace where you pick the specific models you want to use for a given task.
I'm thinking I may pick the agents that I want to
Or maybe
use to
it's the
go
AI.
use those
Yeah.
models,
Yeah.
sort
So
of the next level
yeah,
processing,
Mhm.
if you will.
this kind of fits into my you know statement, intentionally provocative statement that there's no such thing as an AI application. There are AI services, and the application that you use those services. So that ChatGPT, for example, is a chat service, and instead of an army of people behind it, it's an AI service. And I think here is where that is a helpful concept. Even if you disagree with me or it's a terminology or semantic question, the concept is that you're still trying to do the same things you're always trying to do: build applications, services, whatever you want to call them, that help people do things, help people accomplish things. And some of the engines in the past were analytic or logical or whatever it might be. Now there's this sort of hyper automated way to take the place of some of those in terms of the functionality. I don't want to understate the importance of what AI does or the lead up to AGI, artificial general intelligence, but we're still talking about piece parts that get assembled in order to help human beings accomplish something.
So here's my take on it at the end of the day, going back to Red Hat. So Red Hat and other providers of curated open source platforms will start incorporating all this stuff into their existing platforms where they have existing relationships with developers. And all this is just going to become part of the furniture as far as their standard relationship is concerned. So that's why I'm scratching my head going, I don't know. Are organizations really going to add another vendor like OpenAI, or are they just going to go with their steady eddies that they already know? And these guys are just going to encompass all these open source tools into their existing services. Seems that's how it's going to play out to me.
It's just the difference between, let me just say one thing. It's just the difference between the DIY approach and the single source approach that you're talking about. Some will continue doing DIY, they will go direct. The other ones will use the same tools they continue to use. Sorry,
I mean,
Roche.
look at Coder that just went over a million users on a daily basis. That's the kind of front end, the IDE. It's using different models on the back end. So it's the integration point for all those AI tools. You're using something else to drive that process, a different tool, like Cursor.
All right. That's the last word on this one. We got to take a break. We're coming back. Contractor contraction. Is it just a federal thing or is it everywhere? You're watching Techstrong Gang.
Discover Techstrong Group, the epicenter of tech innovation. We're your go-to for reaching IT leaders and practitioners worldwide. Our secret? Impactful content that sparks awareness, engagement, and top-quality leads. With us, you'll access editorial websites, streaming videos, virtual events, custom content, analyst research, and more. Join our satisfied clients. Let's revolutionize your tech journey. Contact us today and tell your story to the world in the most powerful way with Techstrong Group.
Hey, folks, we're back and we're talking about contractors and the cancellation of contracts by the federal government, which seems to be aimed at companies like Accenture and Deloitte. And it looks like, at least if you believe all the reports that are out there, um, the federal government asked these contractors to come up with billions of dollars in savings, and they responded in ways that I think at least the Financial Times described the response as quote unquote insulting. And so now the federal government is trying to restructure all these contracts and replacing some things with, much lower cost products and services. Um, on the face of it, this might be a good thing for taxpayers, but it seems to be one more thing that we are dealing with in a rather, shall we say, uh, method that creates a lot of confusion and a lot of agitation. So, Guy, Are we going to see more of this, though? Will this be a playbook that other governments, states, everybody else is going to use the same playbook here? Or is this just a one-time thing because of this administration?
Well, one time I think this administration will continue to rinse and repeat this particular technique. I don't know, how much other governments will emulate it. I've been sort of waiting and expecting the state of Texas to sort of follow suit in this way. It's Republican-run state with a governor with presidential ambitions, and a party that really likes to see this sort of thing, the Republican Party. That said, I think that as far as saving taxpayers money, it's pretty clear that this doesn't. We're talking about 0.2% or 0.3% of the annual defense budget. And I think in general, a lot of the moves being made around the federal government have a lot of noise and a lot of heat, but maybe not a whole lot of light. So the heat makes a difference. I do think that makes a difference in a couple of ways. One is this is no longer a standard negotiation between, a big federal agency and a set of contractors because it becomes public. And there's a fair amount of, what do you call it? Bad words, or I don't know, calling an offer insulting or whatever. There's a whole lot of bluster going on here. Bluster very often occurs behind the scenes, but in the end, tends to be a relationship between contractor and agency. Whether the business is there or not there goes up or down, just like a typical contracting relationship. There's negotiation, and everybody tries to walk away feeling, like even if they lost this battle, in general, the relationship is preserved. This is more an issue of turning, every contractor potentially into an enemy of the agency. And I think that's a lot more the point for these relationships to become hostile and for the world or the country to be warned, you're not gonna stiff the government on our watch, kind of thing. The reality being that while there's a certain amount of waste, there's waste everywhere. We don't really know how much there is. And generally, when you dig into things, it's less than is claimed. The $2 trillion of supposed savings that Elon Musk declared when he started up heading Doge is, I think, the biggest example we have right now. Because so far, the actual savings they've found is a lot of money to you and me. It's like 50, 100 billion or something like that, but it's a fraction
It's not
of
50 or
federal.
100 billion.
I had said their claims are closer to, well, maybe I'm getting my terms mixed up. It doesn't really matter when you do
The
the
numbers
math.
I saw
The
are
actual
closer to 5
savings
to
are hardly
10.
there at all.
But
Yeah.
let's rip the Band-Aid off of this. Guy, you were very diplomatic. I appreciate it. But let's rip the Band-Aid off here. You're going to take out, first of all, for anyone who knows anything about the DOD and how government works, 70% of the people in any government deployment are not government employees. They're contractors. You're going to take $5 billion worth of contractors off of mission critical DOD systems, like the kinds that control our nuclear bombs and stuff like that. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? God, heaven forbid we actually get attacked and we find out that we fired the contractor who was responsible for something. This is more fire, aim, shoot, or fire, aim, load, or whatever it is. It's bass backwards. It's bass backwards, right? And I worry about, are we putting our national defense posture in jeopardy? But then again, we've already opened the front door. Why not open the back door to Russia and the rest of them, right? Because that's what we're really talking about here. That's what we're really talking about here. This isn't, it's one thing when we say, hey, people can live a month without their Social Security check. Well, when you're a billionaire, yeah, you can. It's another thing when you start degrading the efficiency of the United States Armed Forces, whose mission is to protect us, that we sleep under their blanket, to quote Jack Nicholson, right? And A Few Good Men. We sleep under the blanket of their security. And when you strip out the ability for them to do it this way, you're looking for trouble. You're looking for trouble, and it's going to find you. So let's call this what it is. This is a degradation of our ability to defend the homeland.
I'm not sure the evidence is there for that in this particular story, Al.
I
You're talking
don't
about
go
something
just by
different,
the
which to me
story.
is not so
Guy,
much budget
you're
cuts as
taking $5 billion in contract. What they've done is they fired everyone. Let's grind everything to a halt and we'll re-award things to a bunch of Tesla 20-year-olds or something. But until that gets done, the Pentagon is a 24/7 operation. The DOD is a 24/7. We have boys and women in harm's way around the world 24/7 who rely on the functioning of this department. And when you just say stop everything until we figure it out, everything stops. And that's a real problem. That's a real problem.
The problem too, Alan, has been when the kind of cutting and stopping everything is a lack of understanding what the connection points. It's not just the help desk contract for 500 million. It's what are the other things tied to that was supposed to accomplish, and maybe that was too big of
I mean,
the
look
number. Maybe
at
it should
what's
be
gone
less.
on in other agencies. They
Well, what does
fired
it stop,
people only
right?
to say, hey, oh my God, what a mistake we made. We got to hire them back. Come on back. Well, now I don't want to come back. Or maybe I got
But Alan,
another job.
this situation, this situation's more insidious than that, okay? Because the claim and the PR and the statements made by Secretary Hegseth about this are all about we're doing some trimming. Our civilian workforce can do the IT, the help desk and the cloud consulting stuff and blah blah blah, right? So they're making it all seem very anodyne, like oh, we found this waste and we're cutting it. But to I think the whole purpose of it is to be random, weird, unpredictable, so that everybody seizes up, like you say. And part of that is this sort of like, well, we're just going to find stuff and we're just going to cut it, and you're just not going to know what's happening. And I think that's more important
Are you
than
trying to say we're shipping Accenture and Deloitte people to an El Salvador prison?
No.
only if they object.
But historically, there has been this perception, at least, that the contractors and the agencies are too cozy, and that the agencies are too dependent upon the contractors, and the contractors are been steadily increasing costs along the way. And these companies are fairly profitable. So I don't know if I doubt this is the right approach, but some additional
Mike,
transparency.
don't be an appeaser here. Yeah. Okay. So listen, here's the deal.
The point is, this was not done through a normal.
That's the whole point.
It's being done
Mike, what you're
as
talking
press
about
release.
is standard operating procedure. Hey, guys, we need to renegotiate. Hey, guys, this is where we've spotted waste. Here's where we need to cut some things. Let's do that dance.
Yeah, and you know what,
That's
Booz
not
Allen?
this.
We're going to give you a press release where you can go and say, we helped cut government spending. We took the bullet. We're getting $1 billion, $4 billion less from the federal government because we're just so great that we worked with them. Instead,
let me give
it's
you a little
this
historical
chaotic,
context.
you know.
When was the last time the federal budget was balanced and actually ran a surplus?
In the
Under
90s.
Clinton, it was
Under
99
Clinton
or
and
something.
Gore.
Yeah,
How did-
2000. Yeah.
Do you think they came in and pulled this kind of nonsense? I remember, I'm old enough, I remember when this happened, right? Al Gore was appointed, it was his moonshot mission to cut government spending. They took about a year to a year and a half just investigating. Didn't cut anything. Digging in, seeing where the money was spent, what were the outcomes. They then made suggested cuts that were approved by something called Congress. Do we still have a Congress? I haven't heard anything.
Congress, is that related to Red
Right.
Hat at all? What's
Maybe
that?
it was with Red Hat, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It was approved in a contract with America. Newt Gingrich and the old Republican Party was involved in this. It was what they called bipartisan. and they balanced the budget with a $70 billion surplus. That's how government's supposed to work. I'd be all for it. I'd be all for trimming some fat off of a $700 or $800 billion defense budget. This is just taking a machete to mission critical services that I think we all agree that's the federal government's job, is to, provide defense.
Based
With
on
no
what
rhyme
we've
or
seen
reason.
elsewhere, I can't help but wonder if somebody at Accenture or Deloitte just missed their invitation to go to Mar-a-Lago, because you would think.
But isn't that
This
the
is the
state of the
invitation to
world?
go to Mar-a-Lago, Mike. This is their invitation to go to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, this is the circle back.
So I can't really speak. I don't have the financial or political financial background to understand if this is going to work or not work. But I will say my experience with all this is that I have several friends who work as contractors in IT at our Air Force Base here, and they're scared about their jobs because they're restructuring. There's been several big announcements this week about they're restructuring. They're going to be cutting a lot of jobs, and nobody knows whose job is still going to exist. And they may have to move. They may be blending with another Air Force base in other states. So everything's all up in the air here for some of my friends, and I'll be sad if they move. So that's all I can say is that's what I'm seeing from it here.
Thank you. That's
That's where
exactly
it
what
hits
I'm
home.
talking about. The method used here is intended to assert dominance.
Intimidation. I
Mhm.
mean, what's going on with Harvard and Columbia and the universities now? They're going to try to tell universities what they can teach and not teach.
Well, it's chaos engineering without the engineering.
Yeah. Does anyone else recognize the irony that they want universities to enforce a rule that you cannot wear masks when you're protesting, but yet it's okay for our law enforcement officers to wear masks when they're grabbing people off the street? What's the difference?
Good point. Hadn't thought about that.
Let's take a break. You're watching Techstrong Gang.
SecurityBoulevard.com is the leading resource for news, analysis, and education on challenges facing the cybersecurity industry. SecurityBoulevard.com covers all aspects of cybersecurity, including data security, DevSecOps, cloud security, application security, network security, security threats, and more. SecurityBoulevard.com has the largest selection of security content, featuring breaking news, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Visit www.securityboulevard.com to learn more. SecurityBoulevard.com, home of Security Bloggers Network.
Hey, folks, we're back with something that, well, hopefully is a little less controversial, but you never know these days. The Atlantic League, a baseball league, I guess the minor league teams when you think about it, but they are now experimenting with putting QR codes on baseballs. The idea here is that if there's a foul ball, a fan grabs the ball and there'll be a QR code on it, and they might win prizes or other things that you could possibly get through just scanning the QR code. I think this is fun and it's a good idea. Amanda, what's your take?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exceptional marketing. It's getting everyone excited. And I think the first thing I thought when I started reading this article that you might be wondering is, will those QR codes last on those baseballs? But they've tested them. They've whacked them with numerous bats and run them through the ringer, and they are still working on the baseballs. So it's just a really fun thing. I think if you're a kid going to these baseball games, or an adult, and you get one of these baseballs, that's really exciting to see what you've gotten for free. Is it a free hot dog, a t-shirt, free ticket? So really exciting marketing strategy, I think, to get people to go watch the games.
So I'm a baseball fan. So first of all, Mike, I believe the Atlantic League is what they call an independent league, right? So it's not like an affiliate of a major league team per se, AA, AAA. It's more akin to the old barnstorming. You know, my youngest son's a sportscaster down near where Amanda lives. And there's a team down there called the Bison. And I've gone to see them play, and it's in like an Atlantic League team. I think the QR codes are an interesting take for two. One use is this gamification, right? Scan the ball you got, and maybe you get a free hot dog or what have you, or a tat or something. But the other thing, think about it. How much? Who hit the home run? Someone wanted to pay like $6 million. Was it Aaron Judge's 61st? Or 62nd home run, or Shohei Ohtani's record breaker. I mean, certain, baseballs, game-used baseballs, right? A baseball that Babe Ruth hit out of the park, or Ted Williams, or DiMaggio, or Mickey Mantle, whatever. But you always had the authenticity problem. Is that really the ball? Now, if you scan in the ball every time, so we know what ball it was that actually was the one that Aaron Judge hit for that 62nd home run, without a doubt.
Sounds like a new betting thing. Which ball was the home run that Aaron Judge
I mean,
will get?
it brings a whole, memorabilia collectors. This is a big boon for them.
Sounds like an opportunity for more fan interference too.
So I don't want to be a downer about this because I love this idea, but I would say that somebody's going to start making baseballs and slapping QR codes on them and bring people to sites that are full of malware and all kinds of stuff.
Well,
and
this is
there
why
will
we
be-
can't have nice things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't understand why, exactly to Mike's point, anybody can't spray paint or whatever a QR code on a baseball and
I don't know if you
have a
can
whole
spray
new
paint
phishing
a
attack.
QR code.
That would rub off. But
So here's I think but the technology to print a QR code, I mean, a QR code's pretty, the definition, I don't mean the dictionary definition.
Resolution.
The resolution,
The resolution.
Mitch, that's the word. I think it's going to take some sophisticated equipment to do that. It's a long way to hijack some people.
Sounds like a good way to see what the spin is on the ball. You're going to be able to maybe catch that.
Well,
easier?
no, what better than a QR code, maybe they embed some sort of chip inside the ball.
oh yeah.
And it has telemetry.
Yeah, there you go.
That would be
R-shaped,
pretty cool.
yeah.
There's a scandal in here
Then
somewhere.
someone could hack
I
the
know.
chip and make it turn, stop, go, do all kinds of things. That's
All right. And the price of a baseball just went up to $100 a ball.
not if we make chips in America, god darn it. Anyway, hey, that's a good way to end. It's a good way to end a contentious Techstrong Gang. So good story there. And by the way, that story's out on Digital CXO, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. So do check it out. Have I mentioned Techstrong.it? That's our newest site for IT and infrastructure and semis and stuff. Check that one out too. Mike, Mitch, Guy, Amanda, thanks for joining us today on Techstrong Gang. We've got a whole bunch of Techstrong TV right behind this, so stay tuned for that. But until tomorrow, enjoy your Wednesday. This is Alan Schimmel. We're out.